I want to do a commentary video on a video that I just watched that was put out by Ryan Pineda called Cashflow is a Lie. Now, Ryan Pineda used to be a professional baseball player, and then he turned into a real estate investor, and now he's in the real estate investing education space. And so he has a lot of videos on YouTube. He has, nearly 400,000 followers. And so a lot of the things that he says, a lot of people like, obviously, because they've subscribed to his channel, and he just has a lot of great content. So we're going to watch about a 3-minute clip, and then I'm going to kind of comment during the clip and let you know some of the things that I agree with and some workarounds in order to still have cash flow, even if you have rentals.
The top 10 lessons I've learned in the last 15 years as a real estate investor. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Ryan Pineda. I've bought and sold over $100 million of real estate. Most of those were house flips. We've wholesaled a bunch. We've also built up a fund and bought hundreds of units of apartments. I've bought my own properties of single family, Airbnbs, condos, you name it. I've pretty much bought everything you can imagine. And I'm gonna give you the 10 lessons that I've learned these last 15 years. So lesson number 1 is that rentals suck. I mean, look, this passive income game that most of you are thinking you're going to get financially free if you just acquire enough units. It's not real. At least not initially, okay?
All right, so I just want to start off by saying that I absolutely agree with Ryan in this regard. I agree that you can have a lot of units and still not cash flow. A business partner and I built a portfolio of about 250 units, which seems to be a lot. We had about 100 single family homes, we had 100 mobile home parks, 30 in multifamily, and about 20 in commercial. And so, you'd think with all of that real estate that we should be killing it. Well, that's what we thought too. And so we started taking out cash flow, and it was feeling great. We were taking out about $10,000 each a month in cash flow, and everything seemed to be going great until we took a closer look at the books, and we realized that, yeah, we have mortgages and taxes and insurance that need to be taken out, but we have a business, and there are just business expenses, and we weren't taking into account all of the business expenses. And so I had somebody doing my books at the time, and we had to take the books back and do them in-house because I realized that we weren't making nearly as much money as I thought we were. In fact, I found out that we were actually losing money each month before we were taking out the $10,000 each. So, lesson learned, when you are starting out, you need to make sure that somebody on your team does the books, or you need to make sure that you have bookkeeping in-house. It's one of the first hires. It's super, super important because you might think that you're doing well, but when you add up all of these little tiny costs, sometimes they're just a ton, and you actually are losing money when you think you're making money. So don't do that mistake like I did. So I can definitely attest to what he's saying, that you don't make as much money as you think you're going to be making with rentals.
If you look at properties today, majority of properties in major markets do not have any cash flow. I'm in Las Vegas. You go buy a median house right now, $400,000 or $500,000, and it is not going to cash flow. You're actually going to have negative cash flow if you buy it, okay? And I know that this is in most major markets.
I definitely agree with what he just said there. Most major markets do not cash flow. And one of the reasons they don't cash flow is there is a lot of money waiting to be placed somewhere. And so if you have a market that has a good cash flow in it, then what happens is a lot of the money goes into that market in order to make that profit. And as it's making that profit, it's bringing up the house prices up to where they no longer cash flow. You go back like 5, 6, 7 years, and you're gonna notice that the home prices were a lot lower. And I'm talking about even pre-COVID. And what happened was the prices for rents started to go up. And as soon as the prices for rents started to go up, the prices for homes started to go up as well. And the reason being is because as soon as people were able to get those low interest rates and they were able to start cash flowing on those properties, then what happened was a lot of investors came in and started to bid up the price of the houses because they wanted to put money in areas that would cash flow. So that usually happens when there are cash flowing markets. So how do people even make money on real estate in these markets? Well, the big way is to not have loans. If you are able to get into a property and not have a mortgage, then you're going to cash flow much higher than somebody that does have a mortgage. So that's one thing that they do, and he's going to talk a little bit about it in just a little bit.
Now, Is there cash flow markets? Are there different cash flow markets? Sure, you can go to the Midwest and get some, but even then, I've had lots of students who have bought many properties in cheaper markets, and on paper they look great. A property could be $100,000 and it rents for $1,000. That's the 1% rule, or maybe it even rents for even more. And they soon find out that it doesn't make money. When you factor in vacancy and evictions and repairs and just all these different costs that happen along the way. Even if you got a big portfolio, 50 units, 100 units, it's like, man, this does not make what I thought it would make. And we're really like just a few vacancies or a few big major repairs away from being negative.
So I'm going to have to agree with Ryan on this specific point as well. We've gone into these cash flowing markets, the markets that you're able to buy a house for $50,000 or $100,000 and that you're able to get $1,000 in rent. And on paper, you're supposed to be making, crazy amounts of cash flow. Well, a lot of our cash flow was eaten up through repairs, vacancy, and other things like that when it came to having rentals.
There's been this myth fed over the last 10, 15 years of like, man, just acquire enough rental units and get enough rentals and you can be financially free. And people think that when they acquire it, they're buying it for cash flow today, and all of a sudden they think like, oh, this is going to cash flow $300. I need 20 of these and I'm at $6,000. And it's like, that doesn't really work. Okay.
So Ryan is correct when it comes to how rentals have turnover, they have repairs, they have vacancy. And a lot of these things tend to eat up a landlord's cash flow. So one thing that I wanted to say, this is where I deviate from him and actually don't even deviate from him. He doesn't even mention it here. But what I want to mention here are lease options. So as you guys know, if you've watched my channel, I'm a big proponent of lease options. I think they're fantastic. They may take a little bit longer to fill than your regular rental, but when you get somebody in there, then the total overall cost of the property is much lower and your cash flow is much higher. You see, when I set up lease options, what I do is I have the tenants are going to be making the repairs. I put in my lease agreement that there's a discount when they don't, call me to make repairs, but they take care of it themselves. And if they do call me and I need to take care of the repairs, then they actually lose that discount. So they're incentivized to take care of the property. And also with a lease option, I do tend to charge more than what a regular rental costs. So I'm making more money, I'm paying out less in repairs. And then also he talked about vacancy and he talked about evictions. It's interesting with my lease options, I've really, I think only had to evict maybe one or two in the last maybe 5 years I've been doing lease options. And so the eviction rate is way lower for lease options. And then also when it comes to somebody deciding that they're not going to exercise the option and they're just going to move out, then I may need to come in and a lot of these tenants take better care of the property than your average tenant, but some of them still leave it a mess, some broken things and things like that. But every time somebody comes in to my property on the lease with the option to buy, they give me an option fee. And a lot of times that option fee is between like $4,000 and $6,000. So if I do need to go in there, I do need to repaint or I need to, switch out the flooring or something like that, then most of what I put into that property is reimbursed with the option fee from the next tenant buyer. So I don't have to worry about this huge outlay of money that doesn't come back to me when I have to turn a property. Like Ryan, I have owned a lot of different types of properties. I've owned mobile home parks, I've owned commercial buildings, I've owned residential, multifamily. And what I would say is, out of everything that I've owned and all of the different real estate strategies that I've used, I think that lease with the option to buy has been the most lucrative than anything else that I've done with real estate. So yes, I agree that your regular rental doesn't tend to make sense in the short term, and Ryan's going to talk about what it looks like in the long term in just a second. But I would say short term rentals don't make money, but short term lease options do make money. What I do is I tend to keep a lease option property for every 3 to 7 years or something like that. And what's great about that is the big bump that you get when you buy a property under market value, the property increases in value and you're able to cash flow along the way, and then you sell it to a tenant buyer. You're not paying any of those realtor fees or the majority of the closing costs, which is usually a big chunk of money right at the very end. And so it drains some of your profit. So anyway, I would say that Ryan is correct. Rentals in the short term do not make very much money. Rentals in the long term can, and he's going to go into that in just a second. And lease options definitely make more money than your regular rental, in my experience.
Okay. Now, what does work is when you buy rental units for the long haul. That's when it actually starts to work, right? I mean, these same properties in Las Vegas, let's just say, all right? If you would have bought them 10 years ago, I mean, they would have tripled in value. So your net worth would have been, really high, because you could have got these things for really cheap. And then the rents since then have doubled or even tripled. And so, yeah, the properties back then, if you bought them 10 years ago, with what they are renting for today and based on what you bought them for, they are cash flowing like crazy. But it took 10 years. And I believe that that will happen again. If you buy a property today, even if it breaks even, rents are going to go up. Prices are going to go up over the next decade. And so, yes, they will cash flow and they can make you financially free in about 10 years. But the problem is, people are thinking that if they just get enough properties today, all of a sudden they can become financially free and live off cash flow. That is not what's going to happen. My advice when it comes to rentals is don't quit your day job. Keep making active income. Reinvest that into, these assets, these long-term properties, but do not even think about them from a passive income perspective. Think about them from an appreciation perspective, from a tax write-off perspective, and then even eventually, as those rents climb, then a cash flow perspective. So rentals suck in the way you've been told, and passive income is a myth, but you can still get it if you just wait long enough, okay?
So thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate Ryan putting out such great content. I'll put a link to that video in the description below so you can go and watch that entire video. Again, great points. Thanks everybody for watching this video. And if you have seen my videos, and if you do feel like you're getting value from the things that I'm sharing, then please subscribe to my channel. It's one way to help the content that I make get out to more people. And it's helpful for me to have a lot more people watching these videos because I do real estate coaching, and I also run real estate coaching retreats out in Costa Rica. The more people that can watch my videos, the more people can see the content, and then they'll be interested in either coaching or coming with us on our awesome Costa Rica investor retreats. So again, thanks again, and good luck investing in real estate.